Over the past week or two, I have been pushing for a particular situation to happen as we write the next chapter in the Johnny Gargano-Tommaso Ciampa storyline. This particular situation that I hope WWE revisits because we really haven't seen it since then. And since then, it was 1997. At 1997 SummerSlam, Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart. It was Bret Hart and The Undertaker for the WWF Championship, and Shawn Michaels was the special guest referee. Many of you really didn't know of this situation. Some of you actually told me this is when I first started watching wrestling. Some of you said, just like I did, that was probably one of the greatest endings to any championship match in the history of this company. But there were some of you who asked, why? Why do you want this to happen? JD, do you know that that particular situation turned Shawn Michaels into a heel as he battled The Undertaker at what was the first Hell in a Cell? Yes, I understand this vividly, believe me. But we're not going to turn Johnny Gargano heel in this situation. It hasn't been done since 1997. And with the current storyline going on right now, I don't see a better fit than the one with Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa, and then obviously with Aleister Black as the NXT Heavyweight Champion. We won't be turning Johnny Gargano heel. But it looks like Johnny Gargano and the story that WWE is trying to tell with Johnny Gargano is one of anger. One of seeking revenge. This is a Johnny Gargano who says Johnny Wrestling is gone. This is a Johnny Gargano who is entering a dark place, and you don't know which Johnny Gargano you are going to get. WWE released an interview with Johnny Gargano as a WWE.com exclusive that they uploaded on their YouTube channel. In this interview, he was going on about how the impact of what happened in the street fight in Chicago is having a negative effect on him, and that Johnny Wrestling is dead. And I'm going to continue on with what I think is a brilliant storyline stemming from the 1997 SummerSlam, putting it in this storyline with this Johnny Gargano character. I think it's a perfect fit. So I'm going to play for you guys right here. Johnny Wrestling is dead, according to Johnny Gargano. This was a WWE.com exclusive.
Johnny, we haven't seen you since NXT TakeOver Chicago, when you suffered a defeat against Tommaso Ciampa. In tonight's match against EC3, we saw a different side to you. What sent you to that?
What sent me to that? What hasn't sent me to that? What haven't I been through? Tommaso Ciampa wanted to take everything away from me. He said he was going to take my career. He said he was going to take my health. He wanted to take everything I love away from me. And I wouldn't let him do it. I didn't let him do it. And then Chicago, when he ripped the wedding ring from my finger, spit on it, threw it in the crowd, and still won. He still won. When everything was said and done, his hand was raised and he won, and he got everything he wanted. He beat me. He took everything away from me. I walked out. I didn't leave in an ambulance, but I walked out, and I walked through that curtain a different person. I woke up that next morning, and I looked in the mirror, and I didn't know who was looking back at me anymore. Johnny Wrestling. Johnny Wrestling is gone. I don't know who I am anymore. And it's not a bad thing. It's not a good thing. I don't know what it is. Out there tonight, I don't know what that was. something just happened. And you know what they say? Be careful fighting the darkness, because you may become the very darkness you're fighting. And maybe that's true. Maybe it's true.
Where do we go from here? Where do we go from here with Johnny Gargano? Well, clearly, WWE is putting a lot of effort into Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa. So much that he beat EC3 last night in the main event on NXT TV. Now, why is that significant in this situation? It's because EC3 is relatively new. They signed him away from the Indies, Impact, Ring of Honor. He could have went anywhere. He chose to sign with NXT. WWE sought him out. They wanted him back. EC3 is no pushover. EC3 is a relatively big name. But the amount of losses that EC3 has already are significant. You know? They might not be significant to you, but they are adding up. The ladder match in New Orleans. The tag team match with Velveteen Dream that we seen at the United Kingdom shows against Aleister Black and Ricochet. And now last night against Johnny Gargano. You know, that serves for two things. One, I don't know what WWE is doing with EC3. He may be a product of bad timing now. Wrong place at the wrong time. He's walked into this storyline with Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa, and he can't really find the footing right now in NXT. And they're not going to feed Johnny Gargano to EC3. This was done as an example. This was done as an example to get across with this new, dark, you know, Johnny Gargano who's seeking revenge and redemption after what happened in Chicago. And it's unfortunate that it has to be EC3 as a casualty. So you know that WWE has big things planned for this. There will be a huge conclusion to this Gargano-Ciampa storyline, whatever that may be. You're not going to feed EC3 to just anybody, being that he's just relatively new in NXT. You don't do that to someone like EC3. On the other hand, with that, EC3, you know, he's becoming almost an afterthought on NXT television. And it might not be his fault. It might be a product of wrong place at the wrong time. And I don't know how you guys feel about that, but, you know, that really jumped out in that main event. Gargano really took advantage of EC3 last night. It really wasn't that great of a main event. It wasn't, according to Johnny Gargano standards, you know. Probably the best match that EC3 wrestled so far in NXT, but the end of that match where Johnny Gargano snapped, you're not going to do that to an EC3 if you're not going to have big things planned for this Johnny Gargano next chapter with Tommaso Ciampa. But where do we go from here with the storyline? That's the big question now. Now we have a character and a direction for Johnny Gargano coming out of Chicago, whereas we didn't have it coming out of Chicago. We didn't know where he was. And if you watch that interview, black underneath his eyes, it looked like he hasn't slept for fucking weeks. Guy's hair is all disheveled. His facial hair is all disheveled. Breathing heavy. The guy clearly has one thing on his mind, and one thing only, and that is ending Tommaso Ciampa. He's already said that this will be over when I end him. Those are pretty bold words. I will end him, and then it will be over. And then I can move on with my life, with my wife. This is a very interesting situation. Now, I don't know where we go from here. If I'm booking this, I am definitely going to go the route of the 1997 SummerSlam. I'm going to have Johnny Gargano interfere in the NXT Championship match that they announced last night. It will be the first set of tapings. It's 3 weeks from now. There's 2 weeks left in this set of particular tapings. When they go back and tape at Full Sail University for the next month, we will get Tommaso Ciampa versus Aleister Black for the NXT Championship. It is happening in 3 weeks. How do we get there? How do we get to a conclusion? Johnny Gargano is going to do, by what he said the last couple weeks, he's going to do everything in his power to end Tommaso Ciampa. The spitting on the wedding ring, throwing it into the crowd. You know, how he was defeated. Ciampa beat him with handcuffs, tied behind his back, with a DDT on an exposed wooden ring with no mat. Johnny Gargano had that in the bag. He let his emotions get the best of him, and now those emotions have turned him into a different animal. What is he going to do to Tommaso Ciampa when he gets that title shot, when he sees Ciampa in the ring with Aleister Black getting the title shot that he had taken away from him? Is he going to ruin Tommaso Ciampa's situation? Are we going to get a situation where we get a rematch out of that match in 3 weeks? Are we going to get the rematch at TakeOver in Brooklyn? If I'm booking this, I am not putting Ciampa and Aleister Black on NXT with a title change. I'm not. I'm booking it towards SummerSlam weekend, and I'm giving the rematch. You got to look at Aleister Black's list of opponents right now. There really isn't anybody lined up for him, especially who plays the type of heel that Ciampa plays. Sullivan's out. Too soon for Ricochet. Adam Cole's the North American champion. The only other one that I see, and I am assuming after what we seen last night, they teased it, not only in the United Kingdom, but again, they teased it last night. EC3 ain't lined up, and neither is Velveteen Dream. Looks like those two are going to be crossing paths in Brooklyn SummerSlam weekend. There is nobody else besides Ciampa. The closest one would be Velveteen Dream. And just like I said, he's not going to be in the world title picture because of that EC3 storyline that they're teasing and slowly building towards for SummerSlam weekend, what I presume. There's nobody but Ciampa. There's no doubt in my mind that 3 weeks from now, with this NXT Championship match, Gargano will be a factor. How do we make him a factor? Does he cost Ciampa the match, and then we get another rematch in Brooklyn? By what means do we get an interference? Is he just going to randomly just hop the barricade and just ruin his chances of winning? Is it going to be something really sly and under the table behind the referee's back where Ciampa lobbies to William Regal for another rematch because of Johnny Gargano? Is it going to be that way? Is it going to be just completely blatant where just Gargano's emotions just run wild and he just interferes in the match towards the climax, towards the ending of that match in 3 weeks? I don't know. But I will say this. There's nobody on the NXT roster for Aleister Black but Tommaso Ciampa. There's nobody on the NXT roster right now for Johnny Gargano. Nobody. This is it. The only other opponent he had was who he had last night in EC3. The only other opponent for Gargano at this moment is Tommaso Ciampa, and he's in an NXT Championship match. It all lines up perfectly. To doing that same situation at the 1997 SummerSlam. Gargano interferes in this match. Regal has already told him that, listen, you have to put this behind you. Put Ciampa behind you. Move on with your life. It's over. The only one who does not want it to be over is Gargano. Regal is going to have to step in. If Gargano is going to interfere in this match in 3 weeks, if I'm William Regal, I'm making Gargano the special guest referee. I am going to give him a lesson he needs to fucking just go in and learn from. He's going to be the special guest referee. You're going to learn to hate Tommaso Ciampa, but you're also going to learn to move on from it. I want you to be the referee, and I want you to be there to call his match down the middle. I want you to just let your emotions take it easy. This is what I'm going to do. Due to the interference, I'm going to make Gargano the special guest referee at TakeOver Brooklyn number 4 between Aleister Black and Tommaso Ciampa. And then, that same situation in the 1997 SummerSlam, whether it's a steel chair or not, because we don't see steel chairs to the head anymore. In this instance, I would fucking bypass it. If we can see kendo stick shots to the head, Singapore cane shots to the head, we can see a steel chair shot to the head here for Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa. Gargano's going to be the special guest referee. And with that situation, there's going to be a situation in that match where you know, Gargano is going to be playing the role of HBK. Ciampa is going to do whatever he can to win that match. And Gargano's trying to call it down the middle, but he's like, what is going on here? You're trying to take the cheap way out. You see a weapon, a chair, or a kendo stick, or whatever. This wasn't here a minute ago. What are you doing? Why are you disobeying me? And then all of a sudden, Ciampa, the way he is with Gargano, just says what he says to him. It irks the shit out of him. It gets underneath his skin. And by some fucking weird situation that happens in that match, Johnny Gargano inadvertently costs Aleister Black the match by hitting him when he meant to hit Ciampa because his emotions got the best of him again. And he's got no choice but to make the count. You know? Even throwing the stipulation that we've seen HBK and Bret Hart go through. If HBK didn't make the count, he's gone. He's out of the WWE. Fired. And Bret, if he didn't win the WWF title that night, he was going back to Canada. Give Johnny Gargano an ultimatum. If you don't count Ciampa and call this match clean, you will lose your job. And I don't mean NXT. I mean you ain't going to Raw. You ain't going to SmackDown. Your NXT contract is being ripped up and you will never be allowed in the WWE ever again. Same thing with Ciampa. You cannot put your hands on Johnny Gargano. Otherwise, you are fired as well. And you're both going to have to take this somewhere else because I don't want anything to do with this shit anymore. The storyline is there. That is the next chapter. And with this Johnny Gargano storyline and with him saying what he said last night following NXT TV, it all definitely is feasible. This is just what I do. I'm trying to give this the next chapter, and I'm trying to make it better than anybody could ever make it. Because I love what they're doing with this. You know, whereas HBK and Bret Hart fucking hated each other, Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano do not, but they are doing a brilliant job at just telling this story over the last year and a half. It's been great. And no, Johnny Gargano will not be turning heel if he costs Aleister Black the championship. It's just going to send him into a deeper, darker place. It's going to send him spiraling into depression. So I love everything that they're doing here, and I think that's the perfect scenario, you know? I definitely seen interference happening in 3 weeks. We'll see. The only thing I don't like about this match being announced for 3 weeks from now on NXT TV is that we're going to know the fucking result before the match happens. And I really don't want to know a match of this magnitude until the night it happens. I wish they did live specials every now and then. I would make that live, you know? But sure, after whatever happens during that taping, it's going to be all over Twitter the moment it fucking ends. And I fucking hate that. It's going to be ruined before we even get there, but we'll see what happens, man. That was the biggest thing coming out of NXT. On top of my EC3 thoughts, he definitely is becoming an afterthought. You know, the losses are racking up. That's not going to put EC3 in the good graces of anybody watching. Can't really be doing that. He's gotten way too many losses already under his belt for some newcomer in NXT. But those are my thoughts on that. I wasn't already high on EC3 to begin with, and it ain't really exceeding that level as we move on here into the dog days of summer. The other thing I want to talk about, man, you know, a lot of people are underselling Shayna Baszler. A lot of people are not really recognizing what Shayna Baszler is doing. I mean, granted, she's from MMA, she's an outsider to WWE, but I'm not letting that notion bother me or take away from what this woman is doing. She has been, in the last, I would say, 6 months, she has been fucking brilliant. Shayna Baszler needs to start, I would feel, people need to start, rather, getting on Baszler's side. The promo that she cut last night was absolutely fucking flawless. And people need to start waking up and taking notice of what this woman is doing. There was one line from her last night that really made me chuckle because I love her fucking character. WWE is even having another Mae Young Classic because they don't have anybody to go up against me. They have to scour the world to find somebody to go up against me. You don't know how fucking brutal that comment was. It's true. Yeah, you got Candice LeRae, and she gave you reasons. You got Candice LeRae, you got Kairi Sane, and she ran through everybody. You know, you got Candice LeRae who's got to take care of her depressed husband, and you got Kairi Sane who loves walking around in public as a pirate, and you got Bianca Belair. I don't remember what she said about Bianca Belair. You got Lacey Evans. You know, there's nobody on this roster that even comes close to what I'm doing. I'm the most dominant NXT Women's Champion of all time. And I think everybody needs to start taking notice of what this woman is doing. She has been great. And if you missed her match with Toni Storm, that was Shayna Baszler's best performance. And Toni Storm had a lot to do with it because she's a great wrestler. She's a great storyteller. The emotion that she showed in that match really highlighted Shayna Baszler as well. But that was Baszler's best match to date. It is scary how fast Shayna Baszler is coming along. A year ago, I didn't want anything to do with this woman, and a year ago, I thought she was merely being pushed because she's Ronda Rousey's best friend, and she's in Ronda Rousey's camp, and she's of MMA background, and WWE wants to get on the MMA train. A year removed from the Mae Young Classic, we're literally coming up on a year since we've seen Shayna Baszler first debut in the WWE. And the amount of work that this woman has put in, and the amount of change that I've seen progress since the first Mae Young Classic has been fucking scary. And if Shayna Baszler continues at this route, there's going to be no choice but to bring her up to the main roster. And that's something I don't want to see. Because I feel like WWE is no way going to treat her right on the main roster. Women's wrestling is not being treated right on the main roster, period. I don't want to take a good one and put her in that environment and have her fucking waste away like everybody else. Everybody that has come up from NXT has been unimportant. Unimportant. Unless you're Alexa Bliss, who has political fucking pull in the back for whatever reason. People need to start noticing Shayna Baszler, and fast. Great fucking shit. That was pretty much the big talking points from NXT last night, man. As far as the show, it flowed. It flowed very nice. I mean, there was actually more wrestling on this show than a normal NXT show, which was always, never a problem with me, and it's always great to see. The show actually started off with Dakota Kai versus Santana Garrett, man. I wish this would mean Santana Garrett is kind of in WWE's good graces. We haven't seen her since the Mae Young Classic. We have not seen her since the Mae Young Classic where she was in that tournament. She was definitely one of my favorites in that tournament. Santana Garrett actually just recently, as of this year, just a couple months ago, wrestled Sonya Strong in House of Glory, and I had a chance to shake her hand, and I had a chance to call her match, and she's just as beautiful, she's gorgeous, and great in person. And I wish Santana Garrett would sign an NXT deal. I think she could be a great fit for the women's division and really, be another great piece to what is right now, to me, the best women's division in all of WWE. Dakota Kai is really coming along very nicely, too, and this was more of a showcase match for Dakota Kai. I don't really know if Santana Garrett is signing a WWE, NXT contract. I really don't know. I think they just brought her in just to get a veteran, a world traveler into NXT for Dakota Kai to beat in a competitive match, which it was, and kind of get on that little road of momentum. But this was a very good showing for both women, but more noticeably Dakota Kai. She won with her float over modified backstabber, which looked absolutely fucking brutal in this instance. Cover 1, 2, 3 with that. This was a great women's match just to showcase what's going on in NXT, man. I'd like to see more of Santana Garrett, but Dakota Kai got the win with the float-over backstabber, and it looks like Dakota Kai is going on to some good things this year. Obviously, she's not going to be in title contention. I think that's going to go to Kairi Sane, and then obviously you cannot ignore Bianca Belair. So I think Dakota Kai right now is going to be in the mix, but not really there yet. Still too young. Plenty of time for it to flourish and blossom, but it's good to see her getting better as well as the months go on. Otis Dojovic was in the PC with Tucker Knight. And they were lifting weights and talking about steaks. They had steaks on the grill. They were working out. So Otis goes to go check on the steaks, and Tucker Knight is working out in the PC. And then all of a sudden, Otis is on his cell phone cutting a promo. He's walking to the back. He's walking to the outside. He's walking away from Tucker. And then all of a sudden, you hear the sound of chains and chaos in the back. And Otis turns around, and he's like, Tucky! All of a sudden, he gets to where Tucker Knight was working out. He's covered in whatever chains he was using during his workout. And all of a sudden, in the background, you see Shane Thorne and Nick Miller just running away from the scene of the crime. TM61 took out Tucker Knight right before their match with Heavy Machinery on tonight's show. So it plays into the fact that TM61, by any means necessary, by taking the cheap way out, continuing that heel-like behavior, afraid of Heavy Machinery and the threats that Heavy Machinery threw at TM61, took out Tucker Knight, and Otis, the way he is, was going to stick up for his friend. He was going to go into this match with Tucker Knight or without him. It ended up being a handicap match, and Otis wanted revenge on what TM61 did. And this was actually a very good showcase for Otis in a 2-on-1 situation. This match went longer than I really expected. I thought this was going to be a fucking squash match, being that it was a 2-on-1 situation with TM61. But Otis really carried himself very well here, man. Obviously, he started off strong, throwing his weight around. Nick Miller and Shane Thorne, then obviously with the double team and the 2-on-1 numbers game, got to Otis by the end. Otis tried to make a comeback by doing his worm double elbow drop. There was a great spot where Otis did a double suplex on both Nick Miller and Shane Thorne, and that was very impressive. So Otis was just trying to win this match the best he could. Overhead release suplex on Miller, hits a body splash on both guys in the corner. Otis is gaining some momentum. Thorne tries for a crossbody, gets caught in midair and tossed to the mat. Otis with a caterpillar with the elbow drops. Very, very nice. Crowd is going crazy here, completely behind Otis. He heads up to the second turnbuckle for a Vader bomb. Misses. Miller pulls Thorne out of harm's way. Running knee by Thorne. Miller then was tagged in, and a big clubbing forearm with a huge shot to the back of the neck. And the cover, 1, 2, 3, TM61. Barely gets by just Otis without Tucker Knight, man. Very nice match here for Otis, and it showed what he could do possibly as a singles guy without Tucker Knight, but I think they're better together, and I am a really big fan of Heavy Machinery. I love their charisma. I love their attitude. They're a fun tag team. They have a great look to them, and I'd like to see more with Heavy Machinery moving on into the tag team division this year. We had Adam Cole with Undisputed Era walk by Danny Burch, and Kathy Kelly was interviewing him. They were going over the tag team title loss at Chicago TakeOver. They came this close. It was 25 years culmination. You know, we came this close from winning the NXT Tag Team Championships. Then Undisputed Era is walking by. Oney Lorcan is not there. He's going to be out a couple of months with an injury. I think it's an eye injury. And Danny Burch is being made fun of by Roderick Strong. Roderick Strong is like, oh, you don't have your partner, Oney Lorcan. You know, Roderick Strong and his sarcasm is fucking hilarious, man, now that he joined the Undisputed Era. And then you know, Kyle O'Reilly is just a fucking sarcastic prick. And then Bobby Fish was there. Good to see him. And then Adam Cole is just ripping into Danny Burch. Strong says to Burch that they, meaning Lorcan and Burch, are at the back of the line. Burch cracks a joke about O'Reilly and Strong losing the titles to Mustache Mountain at the UK show, UK Championship Tournament. Cole then runs his mouth and says, how about a one-on-one match next week? And Burch obviously agrees to that. Cole laughs. He agrees to it. And that was it. I thought he was going to put up the North American Championship, but apparently not. So it's going to be Danny Burch versus Adam Cole next week on NXT TV, man. Undisputed Era is so fucking great, man. I love their attitude. Really, really good stuff here. We had Bianca Belair actually cut a promo on her honeymoon. She was on a cruise ship, and she took a promo from her cell phone, and she was talking about how the women's division, You know, everybody in the women's division says that they are the number one contender, but she's the only one who's undefeated. She goes on to say, you know, all these other bitches need to get in the back of the line, which I wish she would have said, but, you know, it's the PG era. If this was the Attitude Era, you know, somebody in the women's division would have been like, all these other bitches want to step up and say that they are the number one contender for the NXT Women's Championship. I'm the only one who's undefeated. So that was a really good promo. You know, very laid back, very comfortable. It didn't sound over the top. You know, I'm expecting big things out of Bianca Belair, so it was nice to see her a little bit more relaxed, you know, in her environment there. And I can't wait to see what she does moving on throughout the rest of this year. Kairi Sane says she heard what Vanessa Bourne had to say about her, but Bourne should do less talking and more fighting. They will meet next week, which I'm only assuming is going to be another rung on the ladder for Kairi Sane. There's no way that Vanessa Bourne is going to beat Kairi Sane, which is probably going to mean Kairi Sane is moving on up to be the one to challenge Shayna Baszler at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn. Donovan Dijak, or Chris Dijak, versus the Velveteen Dream. This was actually a fucking physical match. These guys were beating the fucking shit out of one another, man. Oh my God. Donovan Dijak, man, he may look generic at this point. I don't know if he's a work in progress or if this is what they're going to go with him on. You know, his music is very generic. His intro, his entrance, his look is very generic. But the guy is fucking everything that Vince McMahon would literally pitch a tent for if he walked into a room, really. The guy is huge. The guy is about 6'7", 6'8". Got to be at least 250, 260 pounds. Guy is freaky athletic for his size. A powerhouse. Guy was throwing Velveteen Dream around like a fucking rag doll. This guy's going to be something big if WWE, you know, nurtures him, cares for him, and, you know, pushes him in the right direction. Obviously, there was no way he was going to beat Velveteen Dream here. Velveteen Dream is the one that's going to be going on to bigger and better things for the rest of the year. I think Dijak right now is more house show, getting him ready for the WWE style and trying to get his feet wet with what they want to do with him as far as appearance and all that stuff. But Dream wins here after a very, very physical match. Kicks and punches back and forth. They were slapping and beating the shit out of one another. Dream hits a neck breaker, which, you know, I'm loving the throwback to the old school on Velveteen Dream. He's got the Macho Man mannerisms. He's got the Macho Man, you know, flying elbow drop off the top rope. He does the gyrations with the hips before he drops the neck breaker, very similar to Ravishing Rick Rude back in the day with the Rude Awakening. Even Mauro Ranallo said, you know, Velveteen Dream going for the Rude Awakening. I like that he's incorporating signature moves. It's not overabundant, it's not overwhelming, but he's incorporating signature moves from wrestlers that he was influenced by, that you see, you know, that are influential in his character. I like that. As long as it's not over the top, as long as we're not talking about Jay Lethal fucking mimicking legends and shit. This is very subtle. It's very, you know, cool to see a throwback of a Rude Awakening or a throwback of the Macho Man, you know, pose, and him flipping around the ring and spinning around the ring, and then obviously with the Purple Rainmaker off the top rope. Dream with the neck breaker, the Rude Awakening, huge strikes, finishing off, dropping Dijak. Dijak with a spinning kick. That lands a 2 count. Dream ends up on the floor. Dijak on the apron. Dream then trips him, and Dijak lands headfirst onto the steps. Dream, I was hoping, was going to do the Purple Rainmaker, but he hits a spinning DDT, and the match, though it was very physical, it just literally ended out of nowhere. It was very anticlimactic. I was hoping that he would, you know, have the steel chair, or the steel stairs, rather, with that spot tripping Dijak, and then he would climb to the top rope and deliver the Purple Rainmaker. We haven't seen that in a while. So, he gets the win regardless, but it was a very out-of-nowhere victory and very anticlimactic for what the match was. It was a pretty decent showcase for not only Dijak, but Dream going up against an opponent like Dijak. But Dream wins it via pinfall with a DDT. Mustache Mountain were interviewed. They said that they will have to defend their tag team titles next week. We got an Undisputed Era invoking their rematch clause against O'Reilly and Strong. They look forward to showing that it was no fluke in the United Kingdom and that they will win and retain their tag team championships. And in the main event, Johnny Gargano versus EC3. Could have been better than what it was. And again, I stand by what I said. EC3 right now looks to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. The guy is fucking physically phenomenal. Guy looks like to be in the best shape of his life. You know, right now, EC3 is not doing anything that's really going to make me stand up and say, man, I can't wait to watch EC3 wrestle. I'm hoping that a match, even with the Velveteen Dream, if you put him against the Velveteen Dream, it looks like EC3 is going to become, you know, the Tyler Breeze of NXT for 2018. I thought it was Dream. Every big match Dream was in, he would enhance his opponent, but end up losing. Now it looks like Dream is going to be on the winning ways. He beat Dijak. You know, he's doing what he can to make himself must-see. I'm assuming they're going to put him against EC3 in Brooklyn, because that's what I'm assuming here. They even teased it when Velveteen Dream beat Dijak. EC3 came out and did his intro and his entrance with Dream still in the ring. You don't do that if you're not going to have a plan for these guys moving forward. So EC3 gave Dream some looks. Dream gave EC3 some looks. So clearly there's something there. The seeds are being planted for something there moving on into New York SummerSlam weekend. But, you know, Gargano here, this was a downright fucking squash towards the end of this thing. It was somewhat competitive, but then the end just kind of broke down to the point where it made EC3 look like a fucking pushover. Not that I'm taking away anything from Johnny Gargano, because I love Johnny Gargano. Outside Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles, he's my favorite wrestler in the entire company. But super kicks by Gargano. He then drops the knee pad, charges in. EC3 with a fireman's carry, reversed into the Gargano escape. EC3 is able to get to the rope. Gargano is right now just going crazy. He holds on for a couple of extra seconds. He's just channeling that inner anger right now. EC3 grabs the ropes. Referee hits a 4 count. He doesn't want to release the Gargano escape. So then Gargano kicks EC3 right in the face. Gargano at this point snapped. And a draping DDT from the second rope by Gargano. Just like how Ciampa beat him at TakeOver. Now, mind you, that was not done accidentally. That was done on purpose. That draping DDT spot and the way he beat EC3 was not done accidentally. Everything in NXT has a reason. He could have easily made him tap out with the Gargano escape, but they wanted to use the draping DDT over the second rope for the 1-2-3. You know, and Johnny Gargano snapped on EC3, pretty much just leaving him in a fucking pile of waste. And then he cut that promo that we listened to in the beginning of this review on WWE.com. Lots of good stuff going on in NXT right now, man. I am more excited for NXT right now than I've ever been in its entire history, man. Just stemming from this Gargano-Ciampa situation. I can't wait to see what they do. This Aleister Black-Tommaso Ciampa world title match has me fucking more excited than anything right now in all of WWE. This is going to be one of the best moments of the year. This is the next step. 3 weeks from now, we got the next step of the storyline. Can't wait to see what happens, man. If you're not watching NXT, please go out and do yourself a favor. Get the network and watch what these guys are doing, man. You don't want to miss this title match coming up in 3 weeks. I hope that WWE at least is bringing that idea up of making Gargano a special guest referee and pitching the storyline that I just told you guys in the beginning of this review. I'm getting out of here, man. Thank you guys so much. I didn't upload this video. I didn't record this video last night because, for those wondering why you're seeing it today and you didn't get it last night, A, it was the 4th of July. B, I had uploaded something yesterday on the 4th of July, and the numbers really didn't do good because I'm assuming everybody was out drinking, partying, and barbecuing. But I didn't want to have my NXT review do shitty, so I figured everybody's back to work today. You'll see it, and you'll get back on your regular schedules for the rest of the week, so that's why I'm doing it here. But if you missed anything else that I did, Raw and SmackDown reviews are live on the channel, Off the Script Extra as well. Talking about Bray Wyatt's car accident, Ruby Riott getting injured, and WWE potentially moving NXT to Fox. We'll talk about that as well, and WWE possibly reviving Saturday night's main event for Fox when they move to Fox next year in October 2019. Go check that stuff out. Links will be in the top. Thank you guys so very much for everything. And follow me on Twitter, JDFROMNY206. Hit that subscribe button down below. Turn on the bell for notifications. And I will be back tomorrow with Off the Script, episode 229, to start your weekends off the only way I know how, man, with the #1 pro wrestling podcast right here on YouTube.com. Thank you guys so much. Enjoy your days, and I'll see you all for Off the Script on Friday afternoon.